Okay, before we begin this section, if you would like to follow along and practice with me to get the most out of this course, I have prepared a practice file with all the data we will be working with. You can download it for free from the Google Drive link in the description below. Okay, from the description you are going to see a link that lead to Google Drive. You can download the practice file. Okay, all the files that I'm working with, you are going to access it there, so you can be able to follow along. I hope by following along with the actual file will make everything so much easier to understand. If you don't want to follow along, you can just sit back and watch as I guide you step by step. I also want to let you know that I have included timestamp for all the topics covered in this video. If there is a specific session you are interested in, feel free to jump straight to it using the timestamp in the description below. It is all laid out to make your viewing experience smoother. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you find this video helpful. Now let's get started.
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. I need to make something crystal clear. All the data you'll see in this video, including names, email addresses, phone numbers, and any other personal information, is completely fake and generated purely for educational purposes. None of this represents real people or actual data from the real world. It's all dummy data created specifically for practice and learning. This ensures we can demonstrate the concepts safely without compromising anyone's privacy or using genuine personal information. Thank you, and let's continue.
Hello viewers, welcome to this session where we are going to discuss about functions in Excel. A function is a predefined formula that performs calculations using specific values in a particular order. Excel includes many common functions that can be used to quickly find the sum, average, count, maximum value, and minimum value for a range of cells. In order to use function correctly, you will need to understand the different parts of a function and how to create arguments to calculate values and cell references. These are the parts of Excel function. I'm using the sum function as an example to illustrate the part of Excel function. Every function or formula must start with equal sign. After the equal sign, then you type the function name. In this regard, we have the sum function. The sum is the name of the function. After typing the name of the function, you have to type the open parentheses and also the closing parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you are going to have what is known as argument. It can be one argument or multiple arguments. In this case, we have entered A1 ratio A10, which means that the cell range A1 ratio A10. So this sum function is going to sum all the numerical values within this cell range. Argument can refer to both individual cells and cell ranges and must be enclosed within parentheses. These are the syntax you have to follow when you want to perform calculation using any of the function in Excel. You have to start with equal sign, you type the function name, then you type parentheses, both the open and the closing. Inside the parentheses, that is where you pass argument if there is any argument required by the function. You can include one argument or multiple arguments depending on the syntax required for the function. In the next lesson, we are going to discuss more about function. Stay tuned. Hello viewers, welcome back to this session. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to work with an argument in Excel. If you want to follow along, you have to download the practice file that is included in this session. When you launch the practice file, you are going to see each of the sheet. Okay, just look at the sheet that I'm working on. You can be able to switch between the sheet. For example, you can just switch between the sheet like this. You can be able to follow along. For example, I'm working with arguments, so you just switch to the sheet and you can be able to follow along. Now, to work with the argument, I select this cell. I can type directly into the cell or go to the formula bar and start with equal sign. That is what we say, that every function must start with equal sign. Then you need to type the function name. So I'm typing the function name. I'm going to use the sum function. When you are typing the function name, you are going to see that Excel will display different functions that contain the name you are typing. Okay, so since you are typing the sum function, you can just select it from the list by pressing the tab key or just by double clicking on the function. Okay, when you select that function, you can see automatically it opens the parentheses. If you are typing manually, you have to open the parentheses like this. Then you need to pass the argument you want to perform the operation on. Since you are using the sum function, it is going to calculate all the argument we pass into it. It must be a numerical value. I'm going to select this cell range like this. So this cell range now is an argument that I pass into the sum function. The sum function is going to add all the numerical values that are contained in this cell range. The next thing you need to do after passing the argument is to close the function. That is to close it with parentheses, just like this. You need to press the enter key to see your result. I press the enter key. Do you see now? The result is now showing here. It has added all the numbers within this cell range and displayed the result here. In this case, we just pass one argument, but the argument we pass is just a cell range. Okay, so it is one argument and it is a cell range. When you highlight the function in the formula bar, you are going to see that number 1 is highlighted with bold. Okay, that is to tell you that you have added one argument. Okay, so if you add another argument, it is going to select number 2. For example, if I want to pass another argument, let's say I want to add 50. So I just type 50 now. Do you see that the argument is highlighted here? Okay, so if I select this one, you can see it is highlighted number 1. That is the argument number 1 has been highlighted. Okay, if I select this one, do you see number 2 is now bold? Okay, that is to tell you that is the one you are highlighted. From here, you are going to see that it is going to sum everything within this cell range and it is going to add 50 to it as well. So let me press enter now. You see I have 90. Okay, I have 90. This is because everything in this cell range is 40. That is added all of them together and now it is adding 50, making 90. Alright, let's see another example. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to, now I type sum, then open the parentheses. Now I can pass, just like I said, you can pass multiple arguments. I select this cell range, so I separate it with comma. If I want to pass this cell range, I can select it now and also separate it with comma. Okay, you can see I pass the first argument and also pass the second argument. What you should notice is that if you are passing more than one argument, you must separate each with a comma. Okay, you can see I separated the first argument. You can see it is highlighted with blue. The second argument, I separate it with comma, and you can see it is also highlighted with red. So if I want to add third argument, for example this cell, I add it. You can see it here, it is highlighted with different color. So I just pass different argument. What the sum function is going to do is that it is going to add this cell range, add this cell range, and also add 20 and display the result. Let me close the sum function and press enter now. You see we have 60. It simply means that it added this cell range, that is all the numbers in this cell range, added this one and also add this one, and everything is 60. One good thing about adding the cell reference is that if I change a value in any of this cell, it is going to be recalculated. For example, if I change this 6 to 60, let me change it to 60 and press enter. Do you see it recalculated and display the result? So each time you change a value within the cell you selected, Excel is going to recalculate and display the result. That is how to pass argument into a function. Depending on the operation you are performing, I just use sum function. It can be average function, it can be a count function, and many other functions we are going to discuss. You are going to see how to work with each of these functions one after another. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to pass argument into a function. Stay tuned as we continue exploring Excel functions. Hello viewers, welcome back to this session. In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to use the AutoSum command in Excel. The AutoSum command allows you to automatically insert the most common function into your formula. There are a variety of functions available in Excel, but the most commonly used functions include the sum function, the average function, the count function, max function, and the min function. And if you want to use the AutoSum command to perform calculation using any of these commonly used functions, the first thing you need to do is to prepare your data. I'm going to use data for example. We are going to use the AutoSum function to perform the sum of the total values we have in this data. So to access the AutoSum, if you are in the Home tab, you need to click on the Formula tab, that is the formulas. Under the formulas, you are going to see AutoSum here. So I want to perform the sum operation, that is to add all the values. What I need to do is to select the cell that will contain our result. It has been highlighted, this cell. So I'm going to click on the AutoSum. Now, since I want to perform sum operation, I'm going to select the sum function here. I just select it. Do you see that automatically it has added the function name starting with the equal sign, and we have the sum function. Then automatically it added the argument. Do you see that it highlighted this argument automatically and added it inside the function? Okay, so all you need to do now is to press the enter key to see the result. This is the result. It has added all the values we have here and give us the result. Instead of typing the function and its argument manually, you can be able to use the AutoSum command to perform your calculation. That is for the sum function. If you look at the AutoSum, you can be able to perform average calculation, count numbers, max, and the min. You can also access other functions as well. Let's say, for example, I want to perform the average. Let me just clear the content here. If I want to perform the average, what I need to do, I select this cell, I go to the AutoSum again and select average. It is going to perform average operation. If I press enter now, do you see now it gives me the average? When you are using the AutoSum command, Excel is going to select the cell range above the selected cell or beside the selected cell. Okay, that is how it works. If you think that the cell range it selected is not correct, you need to select it manually and the calculation will be performed. For example, if I want to use the count function, so I select this cell now, I'm going to use the AutoSum, then I'm going to select count numbers. I select it like this. You can see Excel selected D12 as an argument, but this is not what I want to count. Okay, so what you need to do in this case is to select the cell range like this manually. Okay, so if I press enter now, it has counted the cell range that I selected. Okay, that is how to perform operation using the AutoSum. If you look at the AutoSum, you can use the sum function, the average function, the count numbers, max and mean. That is, the max is for the maximum value and the mean for minimum value. You can also click more to access more functions. Okay, so that is how to use the auto function to perform operation. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this session. In this lesson, we are going to discuss how to enter a function manually in Excel. If you already know the function name, you can easily type it yourself. To enter the function manually, you need to select the cell you want your function to appear. Okay, so I select this cell. So if you already know the function name, you can just type it manually. How do you do that? You just type the function name. I type equals to, let's use the sum function as example. I can just type the function name like this. Open the parentheses and select the argument that I want to sum. I select this cell range, close the function and press enter. Do you see? I just type it manually and you can see the result. Okay, so you can use any function name that you already know, whether you want to perform the average calculation. Once you know the name of the function you want to use to perform calculation or to perform any operation, you can just type it manually and each argument and the operation will be performed. So that is how to type a function manually, guys. Thank you. Hello viewers, welcome back to this session. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the function library. That is, we are going to explore the function library and different function categories. There are hundreds of functions in Excel. The ones you will use the most will depend on the type of data your workbooks contain. There is no need to learn every single function, but exploring some of the different types of functions will help as you create new projects. You can even use the function library on the formula tab to browse function by category, including financial function, logical function, text function, mathematical function, date and time function, and so on. To access the function library, all you need to do, go to the formula tabs. I click on the formula tab. Under the formula tab, you can see we have function library here. Okay, the first one is insert function. We have already worked with the AutoSum command. You can access it from here. You can also see recently used. That is, all the function you work recently will show here. Okay, then we have financial functions. So all the function in this group or category is related to financial calculation. You can use any of the function within the financial group to perform financial calculation. We also have the logical group, that is the function that enables you to perform logical operation. You can find it under the logical group. Okay, then we also have the text group. So any function that are related to text, that is, you can use to manipulate text, you can be able to access it under the text group. Can see different functions here. We also have the group of functions that deals with date and time. All the functions that enables you to work with the date and time, you can be able to access it from this group. We also have another group known as lookup and the references. So these are the group that enables you to retrieve value from your data. So you can use this function to perform data analysis, such as the filter function, the column function, the choose function, and many other references function. You can find it here. We also have another group that deal with math and trigonometry, so you can find it here. So the mathematical functions and also trigonometry functions, you can find them here. You can see the sum function and other functions that are available under the group. We also have more functions here. So under here, so you can explore more functions just as statistical functions. You can find them here. Okay, that's the function that enables you to perform statistical analysis, and be able to find it here. We also have engineering functions. Okay, so you don't need to learn all the functions. You can only learn the one that is related to you, okay, or to your data that you are working with. We also have the cube functions. You can see it here. We have the information functions, and see it, and we also have the compatibility functions. Most of these functions are the function you can also get in the other group, but they have added it for compatibility purpose. Okay, you can just explore most of the functions that are available for you here. You can also access the web function and so on. Okay, you can even insert your own function as well. The function library actually enables you to view different functions and also insert function from there. For example, let's add the total price of the products we have here. So we are going to use the sum function. So I'm going to show you how to insert the function from the function library. So I select this cell. So having explored different functions we have here, I'm going under this group, that is mass and trigonometry function. So I can be able to find the sum function. Let me search for the sum function. You can see the sum function here. I just click on it. You can see automatically it has selected the cell range for our data here. That is D5 ratio D11. And you can also see the values of the data that is being highlighted. You can see the value starting from 50 to 32. You can see it here. You can also display the value here. Once you know that it selected the cell range that you want to perform the calculation on, okay, what you need to do is just to click OK. You can see it has performed the calculation and show the result. You can see that you can be able to use the function library to insert your function and its argument instead of typing it manually. Let's say I want to perform average calculation on this data. I select this cell. I have to go to the group that contain average. It should be under the more function here. Under statistical function, you can see average. You can see average here. I select it. So you can see now it only selected D12, and D12 is not actually the argument I want to pass into the average function. So what I need to do here is to click on this arrow that point up here. Then from here I can select the cell range that I want to include in my calculation. Then I just click here. You can see I have selected D5 through D11, and you can also see the values here as well. If you want to pass the multiple argument, you can just click here and add it. So I'm going to click OK. You can see it has performed the average, and we have the average of this data we have here, and this is the average $36. That is how to insert a function using the function library to perform your calculation in Excel. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the function wizard in Excel. We are going to learn how to use the Excel function wizard to insert functions and arguments. The function wizard guides you through selecting a function and entering its argument, making it easier to use functions without memorizing their syntax. It simply means that with the help of the function wizard, you can be able to insert a function and its argument without memorizing their arguments. For you to understand it better, let's go into Excel. I open Excel. We're going to use this data I have here so that we can be able to practice how to use the function wizard to insert a function and its argument. Before I show you how to use the function wizard, let us perform some operation first so that you will know exactly what the function wizard will be doing in background. I have a student data here. I have the student ID, the first name, the last name, and also the full name. I have the gender and other data. We are going to populate most of the data that I have here, like the total score, the average score, and the others. When you select a cell, you normally type the formula inside the cell, or you go to the formula bar. For example, if I want to get the full name, I can go to the formula bar and use the concat function to concatenate the first name and the last name and get the full name. I type equals to concat. The first argument I need to pass into the concat function is the text I want to concat. I select the first name, that is the cell that contains the first name. You can see the cell address C4, and then I separate it with comma. I want to concatenate it with the last name. I select it, which is D4. You can see the cell address is D4. Let me close the concat function and press enter. You see it returns John Doe, and there is no space between the first name and the last name. If I want to add space between the first name and the last name, I need to concatenate the space as well. So let me modify the function. Between the first name and the last name, let me type quotation mark. That is quotation mark like this, but inside this quotation mark, I'm going to add a single space. If you need a double space, you can add it. Whatever you enter is part of the text, okay? So let me just add single space and press enter. Do you see now the first name and the last name is now separated with space, okay? The full name is now John Doe. I can also perform the same operation using TEXTJOIN, okay? Let me clear this formula here. Let me use the TEXTJOIN to get the same result. I type equals to TEXTJOIN. The TEXTJOIN allows us to add a delimiter as the first argument. That is the separator, what you want to separate the text with. That is the delimiter. I want to separate it with space. I can just type inside quotation single space. Inside quotation mark, I just type single quote, then separate it with comma. The next argument is going to be ignore empty. Okay, that is if you have empty cell, whether you want to ignore it, okay? So if you select true, it is going to ignore the empty cell. Let me type true, then separate it with comma. Now I can be able to enter all the text that I want to join together. In our own case here, it is the first name. I select the cell that contains the first name, separate it with comma. I can add more text. I select the last name, close the function and press enter. Do you see it returns the same thing? But this time around, you can see that the TEXTJOIN allows us to add the delimiter that you want to separate the text with. With this understanding, let me show you how to use the function wizard to perform the same operation. Let me clear the data I have here. I select this cell. Instead of typing directly into the cell or into the formula bar, I will click on this icon, that is insert function. You can see the insert function icon. I click on it. It will show this dialog box. If the function you want to use is already displayed here, you can select it from this section. But if you do not see the function you are looking for, all you need to know is to remember the name of the function you want to use to perform your operation. So you can type the name of the function inside this input box here. Just clear everything that is here. Just clear it like this. Then you type the name of the function that you want to use to perform your operation inside this input. Let's start with concat function. Let me type concat. Okay, by typing concat, I will now click go. Under select a function, you can see it returns the name of the function and also all the related functions that can perform the same thing, like concatenate and TEXTJOIN can perform the same operation. Our major concern now is to use the concat function. I select the concat function from here and click OK. Another dialog will show. You can see the name of the function you selected here so that you will know the one you are working with. You can see here you have an input feed. This input feed here is where you enter the argument you are passing into the function. Before the input, you will see the type of argument that is required by the function. For example, the concat function requires one compulsory text. For you to know the required argument, you will see it in bold. This bold text means that this concat function requires one compulsory text argument. Okay, so the second one is not bold. That means this one are optional. At least you must pass one text argument into the concat function. That is what this is explaining here. You can also see further explanation here. For example, the concat function concatenate a list or range of text, and you can pass up to 254 text argument. From here, you can see that you need at least one text string and other optional text string, and you can pass up to 254 text string into the concat function. You can also notice that at the formula bar, the function you selected is also showing. You can see that the concat function we selected is also showing here. This is just a wizard that allows you to enter the argument without passing it manually here. Let us start by adding the argument into the concat function. The first argument we need to pass is the first name. I select it. So I just select the cell that contains the first name. You can see it is now displaying here C4. And if you look at the address bar, you can also see it. It is displaying equals to concat C4. That is the first argument we pass into it. You can also see the value of that argument you pass. You can see John for the first argument you will pass. You can see the value here. It is now showing here. The first argument is the minimum argument you require for the concat function to work. Let's pass the second argument. I select text to input. You can see automatically added new text feed. Inside the text to, let me select the last name, which is John Doe. You can see I've added the first name and the last name. You can also see their values here. Let me click OK now. Now do you see it return John Doe, but there is no space. Let us modify the function. To modify the function, while the cell that contains the function is selected, you click on this formula icon once again. I click on it, then you can see it is now showing the wizard again. For me to add the space from this place, this text too should be a space. So I'm going to type a single space, or you can just type it inside quotation mark. Enter a single space inside the quotation mark. Inside text 3, you add the last name. I select the cell that contains the last name. You can see from this wizard, we added 3 arguments. The first argument is the first name, followed by space. You can also see it concatenated at the formula bar. You can see we enter the first name, that is the cell that contains the first name, then followed by space. You can see inside this string here, automatically it is showing the string and the one space in between. The last argument we enter, which is the third one, is the last name. Let me click OK now. Do you see that it is now showing the full name? When you look at the function, you can see that it has added the required argument we pass into it. Let us use another method to get the full name. Let me just clear everything here. Let us use the TEXTJOIN again. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar. I will be a little faster now because I have already explained the concept. I'm going to type TEXTJOIN here. Just by typing text, I can click go. It's going to return the formula that contains text at the top. I can see TEXTJOIN here. I select it, click OK. You can see that the TEXTJOIN, the first argument we need to pass is the delimiter. And the delimiter is a text string. That is the type of argument. You can see it is a text. I'm going to type inside a quote, one space. That is, I want to separate the names with space. And you can see that inside the TEXTJOIN at the formula bar, you can see the space is entered as a string. The second argument is logical. The type of argument here is a logical, that is true or false. Okay, ignore empty. If I want to ignore the empty space, especially if I have middle name and the middle name is empty, it can just ignore the space. Okay, let me just type true. Since it is logical, it is only accept true or false. The next argument we need now is text1. Our text1 is going to be the first name. I select this input. I select the cell that contains the first name. we need to enter the text too. I select this input, then select the cell that contains the last name, this one. You can add more text you want to concatenate together. You can add up to 252 text strings, okay? So in our own case, we have only 2. That's why I added the cell that contains our text, okay? Let me click OK. Do you see now it returns the same result? By using the TEXTJOIN, you can see that we get the full name. So let me use autofill now to fill the rest. Just like this, we have the full name like this. Let me show you more example. Let me just move this thing up. Let us get the total score. I click on this function icon. We are going to use the sum function to get the total score. I'm going to type sum here and click go. You can see I have the sum function. I select it, click OK. Let me just clear what is here. You see that the sum function requires at least one number. It requires a minimum of one number. You can see the type of argument it requires is a number. You can see it here. And the requirement is minimum of one number. Even if I enter just one number here, for example, entering 3, that is the minimum requirement for it to perform. But now since we just enter 3, if I click OK, it's just going to return the 3 because that is the minimum. It just requires, just like adding nothing to the 3, it returns 3. Let's modify the function once again so that we can be able to add the score of the student in various subjects. I select the cell that contains our function. I click on this icon. So the wizard has launched once again. Let me remove the 3. Now this number here can be a cell range. The sum function can accept a cell range or individual number. Let's start by selecting a cell range. I select this cells range here like this. That is from maths to geography. I selected the cell range. You can see the cell range and also see the array of the data we just entered. You can see it listed here, okay? The values of the selected cell range, you can see it displayed here. You can also see the preview of the result. It is already calculated the result for us. You can see the preview. You can also see the formula result here as well. Then let me click OK now. Let me click OK now. You see it showed the result. You can see that it has summed up all these scores and it gives us the total score. Let us modify the function once again. I click on this icon. Let me just clear what is there. The sum function can also accept individual numbers. For example, this number 1, I can select the cell that contains mass, that is score in mass. You can see the value here. For number 2, I can select it and add this cell that contains English. You can see it is now showing individually. I can select number 3 and add biology. Select number 4 and add geography. You can see it is now added separately. You can see the argument enter separately. If I click OK now, I still get the same result. So it simply means that the sum function, you can add individual numbers. It can be summed up. You can also combine both the cell range and the individual numbers and it will perform the calculation. Now let me modify the function once again. I select this cell. I click on this icon. I prefer using the cell range since it is just the sum. Let me remove all these individual ones. Let me just remove it. Inside number 1, let me select the cell range once again like this and click OK and we have it. Okay, we just use the cell range instead of entering the individual numbers. Let me use the autofill to get the rest. Then this is it, we have it. So let's perform the next calculation. Let's get the average. I select this cell. Let me click on this icon. I click on it. Our concern now is to get the average. Since I have the average here, you can, if you are not seeing the average, you can just type the name here and click go. It will search for it. So since I have it here, I will just select the average function here, click OK. Now, let me just clear what is there. The average requires at least one argument, which is number. The type of argument is number, okay, and it requires at least one. You can add up to 255 arguments. Let me select the cell range that contains our mark. This one, that is maths to geography. Down here, you can see the preview of the result. You can also see the little explanation here. You can also see the formula result also displayed here. So let me click OK. You can see it gives me the average. But this average now, I don't need it to be in decimal places. I want to remove the decimal places so that I will just have an integer without the decimal places. Okay, so to do that, I'm going to wrap the result inside the round function. Let me select the cell that contains, we have the average. Let me just cut this average. Let me just cut it. Let me remove the equal sign. I just cut the average function into memory. I need to wrap it inside the round function. I select this cell once again. Let me click on this icon. The wizard is showing. I want to use the round function. I have it here. If you are not seeing it here, all you need to do is to type round, click go. It is going to show you the function name that contains all the name you enter. I'm going to select the round function and click OK. The first argument it requires is a number. This number can be a decimal number. Since I have already cut the average function into memory, let me paste it inside this feed. Inside the address bar, you can also see it here. Okay, you can see that the average function is inside the round function. Then the second argument is also a number. And this is the number that represents how many decimal places you want. If I want 2 decimal places, I can just type 2 here. You can see the preview. It is going to return 2 decimal places. That is 2 numbers after the decimal point. That is 2 decimal places. Let me click OK. It will return 2 decimal places. I don't want the decimal places now. Since I have a nested function now, how do I actually modify the round function now? To launch the helper, that is the wizard, if I select the average, then if I click on this function now, it is going to show the average wizard. Let me click on it. You see it is showing the one that contains the average. Let me click cancel. If I select the round function and click on this icon, it is going to show the round function, and you can see it here. It is now showing the round function. Now what I need is 0 decimal place. I type 0 and you can see the preview here. You can see this first result is 66.25, but after rounding it down to 0 decimal place, I have 66. Let me click OK now, and here we have it. Let me use the autofill to get for other students, just like this, and we have it. Let us get the letter grade. Okay, I've already written some function here, but we are going to enter it using the function wizard. So I select this cell for the grade. I click on the icon. I'm going to use the ifs function. You can use any other functions. So let me type ifs and click go so that it will just search it. Okay, this is the ifs function. I click on it and here we have it. We are going to grade the student based on average performance. Okay, you can also see the if function displaying on the address bar. So whatever I'm entering inside the input will also be reflecting on the address bar. The first argument we need to pass is logical, which is true or false. It is a Boolean value which is true or false. We are going to check if the average is greater than 90. Okay, if it is greater or equals to 90, what I'm going to do is to select the cell that contains the average. I just click on it. You can see L4. I'm going to type greater or equals to. You can see I just type it inside the input, greater or equals to. I want to check if it is greater or equals to 90. I type 90. If this first logical value is true, I'm going to show the value if true 1. You can see it here. So anything you want to display, I want to display A. I type A. You can wrap it inside a string like this, that inside quotation mark like this, or you can equally type the A here. It is going to be converted to a string. This A is going to be converted to a string when I select another cell or click outside this cell. Okay, you can see as I click on this cell, it is converted to, you can see the A is converted to a string. That is for our first logic. Now we need to enter the second logic. We are going to check the average once again. I select the cell that contains the average. I'm going to type greater or equals to. This time around, I'm going to check if it is 80. If it is greater or equals to 80, the value if true is going to be B. Let's enter logical test 3. I select the cell that contains the average once again. I'm going to check if it is greater or equals to 70. If you are not seeing the input, you can use the scroll bar to scroll down like this. If this L4 is greater or equals to 70, I want to return C. I type C. Let me scroll. Let's check logical test 4. I select this cell, logical test 4. I select the cell that contains our average. I type greater or equals to 60. If it is 60, I'm going to show D. Then let me scroll down. Then logical test 5. I'm going to check the average once again. I select this cell. I'm going to check if it is greater or equals to 50. If it is greater or equals to 50, I want to return E. That is E grade. Let me still scroll. Our last logical test is going to check if the average is greater than 0. And if it is greater than 0, we are going to return F. That is fail. But since it is a last logical operator, I don't need to check it again because it is going to be S. Okay. What I'm going to type here that say logical test 6, I'm going to type true. This true is going to evaluate everything at the upper side to true. If none of the value at the upper side is true, it is going to return the S. The S part of the if function is what we are going to type here, which is F. It simply means that every logic before this true here is going to be evaluated to true. If none of them evaluate to true, it is going to return the S part, which is false. Here at the preview session, based on the result we have as average for the first student, it is already showing D. You can also see it here. Formula result is D. Let me click OK. And you can see the result for this student is D. You can also see the formula and the argument we pass into it here at the formula bar. Let me use the autofill to get for other students. And here we have it. You can see this student score A because it is 90. You can see this student score A. You can also see the student that score F. You can see the average score is 30. You can also see the other scores. That is how to use the function wizard to insert the data. If you think that the function wizard is better for you to insert a formula, you can use it. But for me, I will be typing the formula directly into the cell or into the formula bar. That is my own preferences. So I hope with these examples and illustration, you can be able to use the function wizard to enter a function and its argument to perform your operation. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session, we are going to discuss about formula text function. The formula text function returns a formula as a string. It is used to display the text of a formula in a cell. It returns a string representing the formula in the reference cell. And this is the syntax of formula text. The formula text takes one argument, which is the reference cell. The reference cell is the cell reference that contains the formula or function that you want to display. And this is an example. You pass the cell reference into the formula to text, and it is going to return the function or the formula that you enter into that particular cell. For you to understand it better, let's go to the practical session using Excel. I have this number 1 and number 2. I'm going to use a formula to add these two numbers. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I'm going to type equals to, then I select this cell, I'm going to use addition, that is I add it with this cell as well, and press enter. You see that it adds 20 and 30 and return 50. If I want to display the function in this cell, that is when I can use the formula to text. Let me display the function here. I select this cell, I'm going to the formula bar, I type equals to formula text. Inside the formula text, I'm going to pass the reference. The reference is this cell that contains the total. I added it. You can see it is K3. I close the function and press enter. Do you see that it returned the formula that I enter in this cell? Okay, that is exactly what the formula to text is doing. Okay, instead of typing the formula manually or using any other method, this is more easier way of doing it. Okay, do you see that it displays the formula we used to get this 50? Let me select this 50 once again. If I change it to use a function like sum function, I type sum. So I'm going to pass this cell reference, close the function and press enter. Do you see that it returns 50? The formula to text also return the sum. Okay, you can see the sum function that we used to get this 50 is now displaying here. You can see the function and the argument we pass into it. You can see it here. Okay, let us practice more with these examples here. I have this name of students and their scores in exam. Now let me get the total score of each student. I'm going to use the sum function. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I'm going to type equals to sum. I'm going to select this cell reference like this. Close the function and press enter. You see it get the total score of this student. I'm going to use the autofill. Okay, and now it calculated for other students. If I want to show the function that I used to get this total, I go to this cell, go to the formula bar. I'm going to use formula text. I type equals to formula text. I need to pass cell reference that contain the total, which is F4 for the first student. I close the function, then press enter. You see it return the formula as a text. Okay, to get for the other students, you can see it return the formula or the function we entered in this total feed. You can see all of them correspond to the cell that contain the formula. Anywhere you see me display a function or formula that I use for calculation, know that I use this formula to text to display it. I know you can be able to be making use of this formula to text to show the formula or function you use in your calculation. Thank you for watching this section. Welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the sum function in Excel. The sum function is the function that enables us to add a range of numbers or a series of arguments. It is used to calculate the total of a set of values by summing them together. This is the syntax of the sum function. The first argument you pass into the sum function is the number 1. The number 1 is the first number you want to sum. This can be a number, it can be a cell reference, a cell range or array, or it can also be a named range. You can also add optional arguments, which is num2. These num2 are optional additional numbers, cell references, cell ranges or arrays to include in the sum. You can add up to 255 arguments into the sum function. This is an example of the sum function. If you pass a cell range A1 through A10, it is going to add all the values in cells A1 through A10. Another example is that if you pass an individual numbers, let's say you pass 5, 15, and 30, it is going to add the numbers together and return the result. Okay, in this case, it is going to return 50. Let me show you more tips for you to understand the sum function better. What you should know about the sum function is that it ignores text and blank cells in the range. If you pass a cell range A1 through A10, it simply means that if any cell contains a text or there is nothing in a particular cell, it is going to ignore the text and the blank cells in the range. Sum function work with the positive and negative numbers as well. It also helps you for quick calculation in financial, scientific, and general spreadsheet work. You can use it to sum entire columns, rows, or specific cell ranges. Okay. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. We're going to practice with this sample data here. Okay. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I'm going to type equals to sum From the definition, we can pass a number individually. I can decide to add this cell. So I select this cell, separate it with comma, select another cell like this, separate it with comma, and select this cell. So we want to sum them together, that is to add the scores together. Let me close the function and press enter. You see it returns the result, the total score. We can also pass the argument as a cell range. Let me select this cell, go to the formula bar, I type equals to sum. I can select this cell range that contains the numbers I want to add together. You can see now I'm passing the argument as a cell range. Close the function and press enter. You can see it added these numbers together as well. From the definition, we learned that the sum function is going to ignore blank cell. Okay, let me remove value from this cell. You see that by removing the value from this cell, it ignored it. It added the first one and the third one. It ignored this one. It assumed this one to be 0. Likewise, if I type text into it, if I type text into this cell, you see it also ignore it. It returned the sum of 73 and 25. Okay, if I add another text in this cell, another text, it is going to return 73. You see, it ignored these two cells now, so it is just return 73. Okay, even though we pass it as a cell range, okay, even though we pass it as a cell range, you can see that it ignored the text values and only added the numbers. Okay, so that is how the sum function works. If I add value again, let me add another value again to this, and you can see it is summed them up. Okay, they have summed them up. Okay, you can also combine a cell range and their individual number together. For example, this cell, I select it, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to sum. I'm going to select these two cells. Okay, so this is a cell range now. I separate it with comma. I can add this individual number like this. Okay, the first argument is the cell range. I also added another argument, which is the second number here. So you can add up to 255 arguments. So let me close the function and press enter. Added these ones together as well. So let me select this cell and do the same thing. I type equals to sum. I select this cell range, close the function and press enter. I have the total score. Let me use the autofill to get the rest. I have the total score for each of these scores. Alright, with this illustration, let us use the sum function to calculate the total score for each of the students in our data here. Okay, so I'm going to select this cell. I go to the formula bar, I type equals to sum. Then I'm going to select this cell that contains the score. Okay, I cell range. I'm just entering it, the cell range like this. Close the function and press enter. I have the total score. So I can just double click here to get the rest like this. Okay, by using the autofill, I get the rest. I hope with these examples and illustration, you can be able to use the sum function to add a range of numbers in Excel. Thank you. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the max function in Excel. The max function returns the largest value in a set of numbers or a range. It is used to identify the highest value among multiple numbers or cell references. This is the syntax of the max function. The first argument you pass into the max function is the number 1. This number represents the first number or cell reference to evaluate. Other numbers you pass into the max function are additional optional numbers. This num2 can be additional numbers, cell references, ranges, or arrays to compare. You can add up to 255 arguments into the max function for your comparison. This is an example of the max function. If you pass A1, through A10 into the max function, it is going to find the highest value in cells A1 through A10. Another example is that you can also pass a value or number individually by separating it with comma. If you pass 5, 15 and 30 into the max function, it is going to return 30, which is the largest number. For you to understand the max function better, I have some tips. The max function ignores text and blank cells in the range. It simply means that if the cell range you pass into the max function contain the blank cells or text, or cells that contain text, it is going to ignore them. It also works with positive and negative numbers, and it is useful in financial analysis, data comparison, and performance tracking. The max function can compare entire columns, rows, or specific cell ranges. For you to understand all this better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. I have some data we are going to work with already, both the students' data and also the dummy data we are going to work with for you to understand it better. You can see the data here. We have some text and also some blank cell. Just from the definition, we learned that max function ignore blank cells and also ignore the cell that contain text, just like this one that contain Doe and Jane here. Okay, now let's find the maximum score from this list of data. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to max. Then I'm going to select this cell, the whole of this data here, separate it with comma, close the max function and press enter. Do you see it return the maximum score, which is 99? And if you can scan through this data, you can see that 99 is the highest score. And you can see that there is no error, even though that this cell contain text and this cell contain nothing and this cell also contain text, but there is no error. This is because from the definition, the max function ignore the empty cells and also ignore the cells that contain text. It only consider the cells that contain numbers. So it is not advisable that you include text and empty space when you are putting your data. I'm only adding it for illustration purpose. Okay, so let me change this though to a number. Let me change it to 50. Let me add a number here. Let's change this one to 100. Do you see it return 100 now? Because 100 is now the highest score. Let me also change this one to 60 so that all the cells will have a number. So you can see how to use the max function to get the highest value from the list of numbers. With this example, let's use it to answer some question. Let me shift this. Let me just shift it like this. Let me shift this one and also shift this one. This is the question we have here. Let me shift it here so that we can be able to solve these simple questions we have here using the max function. The first question is, what is the highest max score in the class? So we have the student data here. So we have the column for mathematics. So we are going to look for the highest max score. I select this cell. This is where we are going to put the answer. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to max. I select the column that contains the student's max score like this. Can see I selected the array of the data. Close the max function and press enter. Okay, it returns 100. Simply means that the highest max score in this list is 100, and you can see it here. Now the second question is, what is the highest English score among the students? So this is the English column. I don't know the highest score yet, so I have to use the max function. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to max. I select the cell range for the English, close the function and press enter. It returns 98. It simply means that from the English column here, you can see 98 is the highest score. Okay. The last question in max function is, what is the highest score among the students? So the highest score among the students, we are going to get it from the total scores. I'm going to put the answer here. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to max. Now I'm going to select the total score column because we are looking for the highest score among the students. Then close the function and press enter. You can see it is 360. Okay, 360 is the highest score among the students, and if you can scan through this, this is it. I hope with these examples and the illustration you can be able to use the max function to get the largest value in a set of numbers or a range. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the min function in Excel. The min function is a function that enables us to get the smallest value in a set of numbers or a range. It is used to identify the lowest value among multiple numbers or cell references. This is the syntax of the min function. The first argument you pass into the min function is the number 1. The number 1 is the first number or cell reference to evaluate. The next argument you pass into it is the optional numbers, which is number 2. This is additional numbers, cell references, ranges, or arrays to compare. You can add up to 255 arguments into the min function. This is an example of the min function. If you pass A1 ratio A10 into the min function, it is going to find the lowest value in the cells A1 through A10. Another example, you can also pass individual numbers like this. If you pass 5, 15, 30, it is going to return 5, which is the lowest number among the data you entered into the min function. For you to understand it better, I also have more tips for you. Just like the max function, the min function also ignores text and blank cells in the range. It will work with positive and negative numbers. It is useful in financial analysis, data comparison, and performance tracking, and it can compare entire columns, rows, or specific cell ranges. For you to understand the min function better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. This is the data we worked on previously, so we are going to use it to practice the min function. So I have a set of data here already. So let's find the minimum score among this set of data I have here. Select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I'm going to type equals to mean. So select the cell range I want to compare. You can also pass the number individually to compare them, okay, but I selected the cell range for easy comparison. I close the min function, press enter, it will return 20. So it means that 20 is the lowest score in this set of data. What if I change this number to 15? You see, it returned the 15. So it always scan through the data and return the lowest number. Okay, with this example, let's use it to answer these questions here. Okay, so the first question under the min function is, what is the lowest math score in the class? So we have the math column here, so let's get the lowest score. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to mean. Then I select the cell that contains the mass, that is the cell range, close the min function and press enter. So the lowest score in mathematics is 20. If you scan through this, you can see 20 here. The next question is, what is the lowest English score among the students? Okay, the lowest English score, let's put the lowest score here. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to mean. Then I'm going to select the English column, the cell range that contains the scores for the English. Close the min function and press enter. It is coincidentally 20 as well. The next question is, what is the lowest score among the students? So I select this cell. We are going to get the lowest score among the students from the total score column. I go to the formula bar and type equals to mean. Then I select the column that contains the total score. Since we are looking for the lowest score among the students, close the function and press enter. You see that the lowest score is 119, and this is it here. 119 is the lowest score among the students. I hope with these examples and illustration, you can be able to use the min function to find the lowest value in a set of numbers or a range. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the large function in Excel. The large function returns the kth largest value in a range or array. It is used to find the nth highest number in a data set. It returns a numeric value representing the kth largest value. This is the syntax of the large function. The first argument you pass into the large function is the range. The range represents the range of cell or array of value to evaluate. The second argument you pass into the large function is the k. The k represents the position from the largest value, 1 for largest, 2 for second largest, etc. This is an example of the large function. If you pass A1 ratio A10 as the range and you pass 1 as k, it is going to return the largest value in the range A1 ratio A10. Another example of the large function is also this. If you pass A1 ratio A10 as the range and 3 as the k, it is going to return the third largest value in A1 ratio A10. Let me show you more tips. The large function is going to ignore text and blank cell in the range. It is useful for identifying top performance or highest values. It can also be used in statistical analysis and ranking. It will work with both positive and negative numbers. If k is greater than the number of values, it will return an error. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. We are going to use this data I have here to practice so that you understand this large and small function. Okay, so I have the set of numbers here, which is the set of scores. We have score 1, score 2, and score 3. Now, for you to understand how this large function works, let's start by getting the largest score from this list of scores. Okay, so I select this cell, so we are going to practice the large function here. Select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type large. The first argument we need to pass into the large function is the array. That is the array of the data we want to find the position of a number. I select this cell range here. I selected the entire scores, both for score 1, score 2, and score 3. Then I separate it with comma. Then it is asking for k. Now this k is the position of the value I want. If I want the highest value from this list of data, I need to pass 1, which is exactly what we are looking for. We are looking for the largest number. I type 1 as the k. Our k is 1 in this case, so that we can be able to get the first highest number. I close the function and press enter. Do you see that it returns 100? So 100 is the highest number from this list of data we pass into the large function. Now let us get the second largest number. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to large. I pass the array once again, the array of the data we are looking for the second largest number from. Separate it with comma. Since we are looking for the second largest number, which will represent second position, so I type 2. I close the function and press enter. Do you see that it returns 99? It simply means that 99 happened to be the second largest number from this list of data. And if you can scan through it, you are going to get 99 here. This is it. Let us get the third largest number. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to large. I also pass the array of the data by selecting these cell ranges that contain our data. Separate it with comma. Then our k in this case is going to be 3 because we are looking for the third largest number. I type 3. Close it and press enter. Oh, it returned 94. 94 happened to be the third largest number. You can see how we are getting it in hierarchy from the highest to the lowest. Let's get the fourth largest number. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I'm going to type equals to large. Then select the array of the data, separate it with comma. The k value is going to be 4 since we are looking for the fourth largest. Okay, I type 4, close the function and press enter. It returns 93. 93 happened to be the fourth largest number. So that is how to use the large function, guys. And let us use it to answer some questions. I have some questions already here. Let me move this. Also move this one. What is the highest math score in the class? We are going to use the large function to get the highest math score in the class. I'm going to put the answer here. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to large. So since we are looking for the highest math score, we are going to get it from the math column. I select the cell that contain that is the cell range that contain the math score. Okay, separate it with comma. What are we looking for? We are looking for the highest score. So I type 1. 1 is going to be the first position since we are looking for the highest score in mathematics. Close the function and press enter. It return 100. It return 100. Then the second question is, what is the second highest English score among the students? The second highest English score. Okay, so we're going to put the answer here. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar and type equals to large. Then I select the array of the English. That is the English score since we are looking for the second highest score in English. I selected the array of the English score. Separate it with comma. Then what are we looking for? We are looking for second. So I'm going to type 2. We are looking for the second largest score. So I type 2. Close the function and press enter. 95 happened to be the second largest score in English language, and if you can scan through the English language, you can see 100 is the highest score in English. If you can scan through the English, you can also get 95. Okay, this is 95 here. 95 happened to be the second highest score in English language. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the large function to find the nth highest number in a data set. Thank you for watching. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the small function in Excel. The small function returns the kth smallest value in a range or array. It is used to find the nth smallest number in a data set. The return a numerical value represents the kth smallest value. This is the syntax of the small function. The first argument you pass into the small function is the range. The range is the range of a cell or array of value to evaluate. The second argument you pass into the small function is the k. The k represents the position from the smallest value, 1 for smallest, 2 for second smallest, and etc. This is an example of the small function. If you pass A1 ratio A10 as the range and you pass 1 as k, the function is going to return the small value in A1 ratio A10. Another example, if you pass A1 ratio A10 as the first argument and you pass 3 as the second argument, it is going to return the third smallest value in A1 ratio A10. The small function ignores text and blank cell in the range. It is useful for finding specific ranked values in a data set. It can be used to identify outliers or perform statistical analysis. To work with both positive and negative numbers. If k is greater than the number of values, it is going to return an error. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. Okay, we are going to continue working with this data set we have here. So since the large and the small function are opposite, we are going to practice them in one sheet. Okay, from this data set, we are going to use it to get the first smallest number using the small function. I select this cell. Then I go to the formula bar, I type equals to small. Then we need to pass the array of data we want to get the smallest value from. Separate it with comma. We need to enter the k. The k is the position. In our own case, since we are looking for the first smallest number, I'm going to type 1. Close the function and press enter. Do you see that from this data set I have here, 25 happened to be the smallest number? The first smallest number in this data set is 25. As you can see, it returned 25. Now let us get the second smallest number. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to small. I need to pass this data set once again. Then separate it with comma. The second smallest number we are looking for. So I'm going to type 2.
close the function and press enter. 35 happened to be the second smallest number. Now let us get the third smallest number. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to small, then select this array of data we are getting the values from, separate it with comma. Our k value is going to be 3 because we are looking for the third smallest number. Close the function and press enter. 40 happened to be the third smallest number. Then let us get the fourth smallest number. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to small, then I need to pass the array of data, separate it with comma. The k value is going to be 4. Close the function and press enter, and 50 happen to be the fourth smallest number. The first smallest number is 25, the second smallest number 35, and so on. So that's how to use the small function, guys. So with this illustration, let us begin to use it to answer some of the questions we have here. Let us use the small function to get the lowest score in mathematics. So I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to small. But since we are looking for the smallest score in mathematics, I select this array of mathematics score. The array of mathematics score, I selected it, then separate it with comma. The lowest score, so I type 1 for the lowest score. Close the function and press enter. You can see the lowest score is 20. Second lowest score in mathematics, let's get it. I select this cell, go to the formula bar, I type equals to small. I pass the array of mathematics once again because we are looking for the second lowest score in math. I separate it with comma. Then since we are looking for the second lowest score, I type 2, close the function and press enter, and we have it 35. So that is it, guys. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the small function to find the nth lowest number in a data set. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the count function in Excel. The count function counts the number of cells in a range that contain numeric values. It returns an integer representing the count of numeric cells in the specified range. This is the syntax of the count function. The first value you pass into the count function is the value 1. The value 1 is the first cell reference or range or array to count. You can also pass other optional value arguments. The value 2 is additional cell references, ranges, or array to include in the count. You can add up to 255 arguments. This is an example of the count function. If you pass A1 ratio A10 into the count function, it is going to count the number of cells with numbers in A1 through A10. Another example, if you pass individual values into the count function, for example, in this case you pass 5, 15, text true, it is going to return 2. This is because it only counts the numerical values and ignore the text and the boolean values and also the blank values. So that is how the count function works in background. Let me show you more tips for you to understand it. Count function counts only numerical value including integer, decimals, and dates. It ignores text, blank cell, logical values, that is true, false, and error values. It is useful for data validation, statistical analysis, and tracking numerical entries. It works well in combination with other counting functions. Let's jump into Excel for you to understand it better. I open Excel. This is the sample data we are going to use to practice the count function. I have value 1, value 2, and value 3 and their corresponding values. So let's start with the count function. Just like from the definition, we say that the count function is going to ignore the empty cells. It is also going to ignore the cell that contain text. Some cells contain text, and also ignore the boolean values. That's what you should bear in mind. So let's count the cell range we have here, the one that contain only numbers. So I select this cell, I go to the formula bar and type equals to count. I select the whole of this cell range, close the function and press enter. It will return 13. If you look at the selected cell range, there are all 21 cells, okay, but now it will return 13.
This is because it only counts the cells that contain numbers. Just from the definition, it only counts the cells that contain numerical values. So that's why it returns 13 here. That is how the count function works in background. I hope with this example you can be able to use the count function to count numerical values from the data set. Thank you for watching. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the counter function in Excel. The counter function counts the number of non-blank cells in a range. It is used to determine how many cells contain any type of data including text, numbers, errors, and logical values to return an integer representing the count of non-empty cells in the specified range. This is the syntax of the counter function. The first argument you pass into the counter function is the value 1. The value 1 represents the first cell reference range or array to count. The second argument you pass into the counter function is the value 2. This is optional additional cell references, ranges, or array to include in the count. You can add up to 255 arguments into the counter function. This is an example of the counter function. If you pass A1 ratio A10, it is going to count the number of non-blank cells in A1 through A10. Another example, you can also pass individual values into the counter function. For example, if you pass 5 empty string, text, and true, it is going to count all the values and ignore only the empty string. It is going to return 3, which count 5, text, and true. Let me show you more tips. The counter function counts cells with any type of content, numbers, text, date, logical values. It treats blank cells, zero length string, and cell with formula that return empty string as blank. It is useful for tracking data completeness, identifying populated ranges, and it is also helpful in data analysis and validation. For you to understand how the counter function works, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. So this is the previous example we are working with. I have the example data we are working with already. From the definition, the counter function count non-blank cells. So the only difference between the count and the counter is that the count only numbers. The counter function count all the cells that contain values and ignore the cell that doesn't contain anything. That is exactly how the counter function works. So let me select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to counter. I select the cell range once again. I close the counter function and press enter. This time around it returned 18. The reason why it returned 18 is that it counted the true, the Doe, James, Jane, and also John. It counted them. You can see from the list of the data we have 3 empty cells. Okay, so it ignored the empty cells. Alright, so that's why it returned 18. I hope with this illustration you can be able to use the counter function to count a non-blank cells in a range. Thank you for watching. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the COUNTBLANK function in Excel. The COUNTBLANK function counts the number of empty cells in a range. It is used to determine how many cells are blank or contain zero length strings. This is the syntax of the COUNTBLANK function. The first compulsory argument you pass into the COUNTBLANK function is the range. The range is the cell range to count blank cells from. This is the example of the COUNTBLANK function. If you pass A1 through A10 into the COUNTBLANK function, it is going to count the number of blank cells in A1 through A10. Okay, let me show you more tips. The COUNTBLANK function counts cells that are truly empty or contain zero length string. It does not count cell with zero formula that return empty string or cell with spaces. It is useful for data quality checks and it works with single or multiple ranges. Let's jump into Excel for you to understand it better. I have the data we are working with already, so we are going to use it to practice the count blank. We say that the count blank only count the blank cells. Okay, So we have seen how to use the count function to count the numerical values. We also saw how to use the counter function to count the non-blank cells. This time around, we are going to see how to count the blank cells. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to count blank. I need to pass the range of the data I want to count the blank cell from. So I selected this range of data here. Close the function and press enter. It returns 3. It simply means that from this cell range there are 3 blank cells. Okay, you can see the blank cell here. We have another one here. Have another one here. I hope with this illustration you can be able to use the COUNTBLANK function to count the number of empty cells in a range of data. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the average function in Excel. The average function calculates the arithmetic mean of a set of numbers by summing all values and dividing by the count of numerical values. It is used to find the central tendency of a group of numbers. This is the syntax of the average function. The first argument you pass into the average function is the number 1. The number 1 represents the first number or cell reference to include in the average calculation. The second argument you pass into the average function is the optional additional numbers, cell references, ranges, or arrays to include. You can add up to 255 arguments. This is an example of the average function. If you pass A1 through A10 into the average function, it is going to calculate the average of values in cells A1 through A10. This is more tips for you. You should note that average function ignores text, logical values, and blank cells in the range. It is going to include 0 values in the calculation. It is also useful for statistical analysis, financial reporting, and performance metrics. Can be used to calculate average across multiple non-contiguous ranges. For you to understand the average function better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. We are going to work with this data here. This is example data. We have score 1, score 2, score 3, and we're going to get the average. Now I select this cell, I go to the formula bar and type equals to, I type average. Just like from the definition, you can pass individual number separately. I select this cell, separate it with comma, pass another number, pass another value, this cell, separate it with comma, and also pass another value. So you can see I separate each with comma. Close the average function and press enter. So it returns the average of these 3 numbers, which is equivalent to adding 85 plus 81 plus 66, dividing the value by the outcome, which is 3. That is how we get the average. If you were to use formula to get this average, you would have done it this way by typing equals to, can maybe enclose it in bracket, then you pass this value, then you say plus, pass another value like this, plus, then you pass this value as well, then close it, then you divide it by the outcome, which is 3. Okay, and if I press enter now, you see I get the same thing. This is what the average function is doing behind the scene. Okay, it is summing the numbers and dividing it by the total outcome. So that is what is happening behind the scene. Now let's get the average of these numbers as well. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to average. Then this time around I'm going to select this cell range. Okay, I select the cell range like this, close the function and press enter. Then it returns the average. You can see the average of these 3 numbers is 93. So let me get for the last one, type equals to average. You can also combine both the cell range. Okay, you can see this first 2 is cell range. I can separate it with comma and add this number individually. You can see I combine both cell range and individual number, which according to our definition, you can add up to 255 arguments. So let me close the function and press enter. You see it still return the average. With this illustration, let's calculate the average score for each student. We have average score column here. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to average. Then I'm going to select the cell range that contains the marks for each subject. Close the function and press enter. Here we have it. We have the average score. So I can use the autofill to get for the other students. And this is it. We have it. You can see some of the average scores are in decimal places. We are going to put it into consideration in the subsequent classes. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the average function to calculate the average of a set of numbers. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the product function in Excel. The product function multiplies a set of numbers together. It is used to calculate the total product of multiple values in a range or as a separate argument. It returns a numerical value representing the result of multiplying or specifying numbers. This is the syntax of the product function. The first argument you pass into the product function is number 1. The number 1 is the first number or cell reference to multiply. The second argument is the number 2. The number 2 is additional optional numbers, cell references, ranges or arrays to multiply. You can add up to 255 arguments. This is the example of the product function. If you pass A1 ratio A10 into the product function, it is going to multiply all values in cells A1 through A10. Another example is that if you pass individual numbers into the product function, it is going to multiply them together. For example, if you pass 2, 3, and 4, it is going to return 24, which is the product of 2 times 3 times 4. Let me show you more tips. The product function is going to ignore text and blank cell in the range. It is going to treat empty cells as 1 for multiplication purpose. It is useful for calculating compound growth, scaling factors, and percentage calculations. It returns 0 if any of the values in the calculation is 0. It handles both positive and negative numbers. Let's jump into Excel for you to understand it better. I open Excel. This is the data we are going to work with. We have some sample data here. I'm going to select this cell. I type equals to product. Then I can pass this number individually, separating each with comma like this. You can see I pass it individually, separate each with comma. And according to the definition, you can add up to 255 arguments. Okay, so let me close the product function and press enter. You see it returned 12. By passing the number individually, it also performed the multiplication behind the scene. What is actually happening behind the scene is that if you were to use formula, you can type equals to, you can select individual cell like this, multiply it by each of them like this. I multiply these cells, that is the cell that contain 2, that is G3 times H3 times I3, okay, and if I press enter now, it returns 12. So that is what is actually it is doing behind the scene. Let's get for this one. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I'm going to type product. This time around I'm going to select it as a cell range, just like this. Close the function and press enter. It returns the answer, 5 times 4, which is 20, and 20 times 10 is 200. Then you can also combine both the cell range and individual numbers. So let me select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to product. I select the first cell, first two, that is the cell range, GH through H5. Then I separate it with comma. I'm going to add this cell individually. You can see I combine both the cell range and individual cell. Then separate it with comma. Close the product function and press enter. It returns 80, okay, which is 2 times 5 is 10 and 10 times 8 is 80. With this illustration, let us find the total price of each item we have in this data here. We have the product, we have the price, I will have the quantity. We are going to get the total price of each of this quantity. So for the laptop, we have $200 as the unit price, and there are 5 in numbers. So we are going to get the total of this laptop. So I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to product. I'm going to select this as a cell range like this, then close the function and press enter. It will return $1,000, which is $200 times 5 is $1,000. Okay, you can also use autofill to get the rest. Okay, but let's perform another operation before I use autofill. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to product. I'm going to select this cell range like this, close the function and press enter. It returns $220 because 110 times 2 is $220. I can use the autofill now to get the rest, just like this. We calculated the total price of each of these quantity of items we have. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the product function to multiply a set of numbers together. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson, we are going to discuss about the round function in Excel. The round function rounds a number to a specified number of decimal places. It is used to reduce the number of digits after the decimal point. With standard rounding rules applied, it returns a numerical value rounded to the specified number of decimal places. This is the syntax of the round function. The first argument you pass into the round function is the number. The number represents the number you want to round. The second argument you pass into it is optional number of digits. This is the number of decimal places to round to. If omitted, it will round to the nearest integer. Let me show you example. If you pass 3.14149 into the round function as the first argument, then and you pass 2 as the number of digits, then it is going to return 1.4. Let me show you more tips. The round function uses standard rounding rules. It will round up for 5 and above and down for 4 and below. It can round to a specific number of decimal places. It will work with both positive and negative numbers. It is useful for financial calculation, scientific measurement, and data presentation. And it will preserve the sign of the original number. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. This is the data we are going to work with to practice the round function. I have the decimal number already here, and this place is we are going to practice the round function. I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to round, I pass the cell that contains the number, I separate it with comma, the number of digits. If I pass 1, it is going to return 3.1 because it is going to use the standard rounding method, so which is 3.1. Let me close the function and press enter. It will return 3.1. Let's modify the function once again. Let's enter 2, that is 2 decimal places, and press enter. It will return 2 decimal places, which is 3.14. Let's modify it. Let's get 3 decimal places. I hope you guess what it is going to return now. By 3 decimal places, it is going to return 3.142. Let me press enter. Do you see it? 3.142. If you want to get 4 decimal places, let me change it to 4 decimal places. I guess you know what it is going to return. 3.1416. Let's check it out. Yes, we have it. 3.1416. You can practice with different decimal places that you want. Let's make this one 1 decimal place. Let's make it 1 decimal place. Then we have 3.1. Then this one, for this one, let's type equals to round. Select this cell, separate it with comma. Let's make it 2 decimal place and press enter. This is 2 decimal place. This one we are making it 3 decimal place. Type equals to round. Select the number, separate it with comma, 3 decimal place. Close the function and press enter. This is 3 decimal place. Let's make this one 4 decimal place. Select this cell,
go to the formula bar and type equals to round, select the decimal number, separate it with comma, type 4, close it and press enter. This is to 4 decimal place. Type equals to round, then select the cell, separate it with comma. If I want to the nearest whole number, I type 0, press enter. You can see the nearest whole number is 3. So that is how to use the round function. I hope with this example you can be able to use the round function to round a number to a specified number of decimal places. Thank you for watching. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the ROUNDUP function in Excel. The ROUNDUP function always rounds a number up to the specified number of decimal places. It is used to always increase the value to the next higher digit. This is the syntax of the ROUNDUP function. The first argument you pass into the ROUNDUP function is the number. This is the number you want to round up. The second argument is the number of digit. That is the number of decimal places round to. If omitted, it rounds up to the nearest integer. This is an example of the roundup function. If you pass 3.14149 as first argument and 2 as the second argument, it is going to return 3.14. Another example, if you pass 3.14159 into the roundup function as first argument and you pass 0 as the second argument, it is going to return 4, which it rounded it up to 4 decimal places. This is because the roundup function always round a number up. Let's show you some more tips. It always round up regardless of the decimal value. It moves the number to the next higher value. It is useful when you want to ensure you are not underestimating a value, and it's commonly used in financial calculation, pricing, and time tracking. Let's jump into Excel for you to understand this better. I open Excel, I have the number we are working with already, the decimal number. I have the roundup section here. So I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to roundup. I need to pass the decimal number, separate it with comma. I enter 1 as the number of decimal place. Close the function and press enter. Do you see it return 3.2? The round function return 3.1. The roundup function return 3.2. This is because the roundup function always round a number up. Okay, so that is how it works. If I use autofill now, let me just use autofill like this. I'm going to be modifying each of them. Let's modify this one to return add 2 instead of 1. You can see it return 3.15 while the round function return 3.14. Let's modify this one. Instead of 1, let's make it 3. Let's make it 3. You can see that we have 3.142. Yes, because it also rounded up. It also rounded up. It is the same thing because the 1 was rounded up to 2. So the round function is using the standard roundup rule, which is also equivalent to what we have here now. Let's modify this one. Let's change it to 4. Let's change it to 4. Then here we still have the same thing because the standard rule also apply for the round function. This one also rounded up. Okay, always round up, and we still have the same thing. So the round function in this case is applying standard rule. The roundup function is also applying the rule of rounding up, always rounding up. Let's change this one to 0. Let's change this one to 0 and see what we have. You see here we have 4 because the roundup function always round up a number and the round function always apply the standard rounding rule. Okay, so here we have 3. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to differentiate between the round function and the roundup function and also apply them to round a number to the specified number of decimal places you want. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the ROUNDDOWN function in Excel. The ROUNDDOWN function always rounds a number down to the specified number of decimal places. It is used to always decrease the value to the lower digit. This is the syntax of the ROUNDDOWN function. The first argument you pass into the ROUNDDOWN function is the number.
That is the number you want to round down. The second argument you pass into the roundup function is the number of digits. This is the number of decimal place to round to. If omitted, round down to the nearest integer. This is an example of the roundup function. If you pass 3.14159 as a decimal number and 2 as a number of decimal place, it is going to return 3.14. It always round down to the number of decimal places you wanted. Another example, if you pass 3.14159 as the decimal number and 0 as the digit, it returns 3. This is because 0 represents that you want to return a whole number. Let me show you more tips. Roundup function always rounds down regardless of decimal value. It moves the number to the next lower value, and it is useful when you want to ensure you are not overestimating a value, and it works with both positive and negative numbers. For you to understand it better, let us jump into Excel. I open Excel. This is the data we are working with already, so we are going to practice the roundup function here. So I select this cell, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to round down. The first argument we pass is the number, and this number is going to be this decimal number. I pass this decimal number, separate it with comma. Let's start practicing with 1 and see what we have. I add 1, that is 1 decimal place, so I need 1 decimal place. Then close the function and press enter. Do you see that it returns 3.1? This is because it round down the decimal number to 1 decimal place. Okay, so we have 3.1. Then let's select this cell, go to formula bar, I type round down. Let me pass the number again, separate it with comma. This time around I add 2, that is 2 decimal places. That's what I want, where it's going to round down. Then close the function and press enter. I have 3.14. Okay, you can see it round down to 3.14, while the round up actually rounded the same number to 3.15 and round down 3.14. Let me select this cell, go to the formula bar, I type round down again, I enter the decimal number, separate it with comma. Then the number of digits in this case is going to be 3, so that we have 3 decimal places. Close the function and press enter. Here we have 3.141. You can see from the round function we have 3.142 for the round function. The round up rounded it to 3.142 as well, but the round down always round down. You can see that the 3.14159, instead of rounding the 5 up, it rounded it down. Okay, that's why we still have 3.141. okay, so that is how the roundup function works behind the scene. Now let's select this cell once again. I go to the formula bar, I type equals to round down. Then I select the decimal number, separate it with comma. This time around we add 4. Close the function and press enter. You can see that to 4 decimal places we have 3.1415. So that is, it rounded it down. Instead of rounding this 9 to make this 5 C's, it actually rounded it down. That is how it works. Okay, you can see that in the round function we have 3.14116. The round up function we also have 3.14116. And the roundup function actually return 3.1415. okay, finally let's select this cell. I go to the formula bar, I type equals to round down, add the number once again, separate it with comma. This time around let's experiment with 0. 0 means that we want to return a whole number. I close the function and press enter. Do you see it returned 3? It rounded the number down to 3. I hope with these examples and illustrations you can be able to use the round function, the roundup function, and the roundup function to round a number to a specified number of decimal places. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the TRUNC function in Excel. The TRUNC function removes the decimal portion of a number, truncating it to a specified number of decimal places. It is used to cut off decimal places without rounding. It returns a numerical value with decimals removed based on the specified number of decimal places. This is the syntax of the TRUNC function. The first argument you pass into the TRUNC function is the number. This is the number you want to truncate. The second argument is the optional number of decimal places to keep. If omitted, it truncates to 0 decimal places, that is whole number. This is an example of the TRUNC function. If you pass 3.14159 into the TRUNC function without the second argument, it is going to return 3. This is because if you omit the second argument, it truncates to 0 decimal places, that is to return the whole number. Okay. The next example is that if you pass the same value 14159 as the first argument and the 2 as the second argument, that is, it is going to return 3.14. This is because 2 here represent you want to keep 2 decimal places. You are not rounding up, you are not rounding down. It only truncates the decimal places. Okay, let me show you more tips. Unlike round, it simply cuts off decimal places without rounding. It preserves the sign of the original number and also useful for removing fractional part of a number. It works with both positive and negative numbers. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. I'm going to work with this data here. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to TRUNC. I pass the decimal number. In this case, we are not going to add the second argument. Close the function and press enter. Do you see it return 3? That means it remove all the decimal places and return the whole number. Let's select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to TRUNC. Then I pass the same number once again. Separate it with comma. Then I'm going to start with 1 decimal place. Close the function and press enter. It return 3.1. This 3.1 it simply means that it cut off the other decimal places and return 3.1. That means they cut off this 4159 from the decimal places. Okay, and we have 3.1. Let's see what we have here. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to TRUNC. Add the same number once again, separate it with comma. This time around I type 2, close the function and press enter. It returns 3.14. So it means that it cut off 159 and return 3.14. Okay, then let's see what we have here. I select this cell, go to the formula bar, I type TRUNC, add the same value, separate it with comma, add 3, close it and press enter. It returns 3.141. This is because it cut off 59 from it, so it is not rounding up, it is not rounding down. It only cut off the values. It only keep the number of decimal places you want. In this case here with 3 decimal places. Now let's practice here. I select this cell, go to the formula bar, I type equals to TRUNC, then enter this number, separate it with comma, I type 4, close the function and press enter. It returns 3.1415. This is because in this regard it only keep the 4 decimal places and remove 9. That is how it is working behind the scene. It actually remove this 9 and it return 4 decimal places. That is how the TRUNC function works behind the scene, guys. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the TRUNC function to remove the decimal portion of a number. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the power function in Excel. The power function raises a number to a specified power. It is used to calculate exponential values by multiplying a number by itself a given number of times. This is the syntax of the power function. The first argument you pass into the power function is the number. This number is the base number you want to raise to a power, and the second argument is the power. This is the exponent to which the number will be raised. This is an example of the power function. If you pass 2 as the first argument, that is the number, and 3 as the second argument, which is the power, it is going to return 8, which is the 2 cubed, or it is simply means 2 raised to power of 3, which is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. We have second example. If you pass 5 as the number, that is the first argument, and you pass 2 as the second argument, it is going to return 25, which simply means 5 squared, which is 25. Let me show you more tips. The power function can handle positive, negative, and fractional exponents. It is useful for scientific calculations, compound interest, and mathematical modeling. It is equivalent to using the character operator in Excel. It works with both positive and negative base numbers, and it can calculate root by using fractional exponent. For you to understand the power function better, let's jump into Excel. Now I have the sample data we're going to work. I also have some more explanation for you here for you to understand it better. For example, if you have 5 squared, the 5 squares in mathematics simply means 5 times 5, which is 25. If you have 2 exponent 4, it simply means 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2, 8 times another 2 is going to be 16. And if you have 8 squared, it simply means 8 times 8, which is 81. That is what the power function will be doing behind the scene. So let's practice with the power function. I have the number. These are the base numbers, and these are the powers. We are going to raise this base number to this power so that we can see the result. I select this cell. I type equals to power. Now I'm going to select the base number, which in this case is 5. Select it, separate it with comma. It simply means 5 raised to the power of 2. So I'm going to select this 2 as the power. That is the power. Close the function and press enter. Actually, supposed to separate it with comma, not dot. I press enter now. You can see that it returned 25, which is 5 raised to the power of 2. What we did here. Then we have 4 raised to the power of 2. So let's do it here. I select this, type equals to power, select the cell that contains the number, separate it with comma, select the exponent, which is the power, then close the function and press enter. In this case, it returns 16 because 4 raised to the power of 2 is 16. I have 2 here. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. I type equals to power. Then I select this cell that contains the base, separate it with comma. Then this is our exponent. I select it as the power, close the function and press enter. It returns 16 as well. So let me just use the autofill to get the rest like this. You can see that 10 raised to the power of 3 is 1000. 12 raised to the power of 0 is 1. Okay, because any number raised to the power of 0 is 1. You can see that the power function is also taking the basic mathematics into consideration. By 12 raised to the power of 0 is 1, because any number raised to the power of 0 is 1. So that is it, guys. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the power function to calculate the exponents of a number. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the round function in Excel. The round function generates a random decimal number greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. It is used to create random numerical value for simulation, sampling, or generating test data. They return a random decimal number between 0 and 1. This is the syntax of the round function. The round function does not take any argument. This is an example of the round function. If you just type equals to round, it is going to return a random decimal number like 0.62 or something like 0.1567. So this number, they are not specific. It is going to be changing as the cell update. If you multiply a round function with 10, it is going to return a random decimal number between 0 and 10. Another example, if you pass a round function multiplied by 100 into the round function with 0 as second argument, is going to return a random integer between 0 and 100. Let me show you more tips. The random number generates a new random number each time the worksheet recalculates. It is useful for statistical sampling and random data generation. They return different value on each calculation, and it can be modified to generate random numbers in specific ranges. For you to understand it better, let's jump into Excel. I open Excel. I have this section we are going to use to practice the round function. If I select this cell and just type equals to round, close the function and press enter, you can see that it returns a random number between 0 and 1. If I type the round function again here, press enter, you see it return different random number. You see the first one also changes. This is because each time you update a cell, it is going to change. For example, if I type anything in this cell now, just watch how it is going to change the values. Do you see now it generated a new random number? Each time you modify a cell, it recalculates. Okay, if I remove the data from this cell, press enter, it also recalculated, equals to round. If I multiply the round function, if I multiply it by 10 like this and press enter, it is going to generate a random number between 0 and 10. You can see now I have 3 point something here. If I now modify any cell, recalculate, we have 1.3. It is going to be between 0 and 10. If I want to get a whole number with the round function, I need to pass the round function into the round function. If I type equals to round, I pass the round function. Let's say I want to generate a random number between 1 and 100. I multiply it by 100, separate it with comma and enter 0, close the round function and press enter. Do you see now it returns 54. Each time the spreadsheet update, it is going to recalculate. Let me show you more example. I type equals to round like this and press enter. The round function itself return a number between 0 and 1. Even if I use autofill like this to fill this field like this, you can see that it return the random numbers between 0 and 1. It is always between 0 and 1. That is how to use the round function. I hope with this illustration you can be able to use the round function to generate random decimal number between 0 and 1. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this lesson we are going to discuss about the RANDBETWEEN function in Excel. The RANDBETWEEN function generates a random integer between two specified whole numbers. It is used to create random whole number values within a defined range. This is the syntax of the RANDBETWEEN function. The first argument you pass into the RANDBETWEEN function is the bottom value. The bottom argument is the lowest integer in the random number range. The second argument you pass into the RANDBETWEEN function is the top value. The top argument is the highest integer in the random number range. This is an example of the RANDBETWEEN function. If you pass 1 as bottom argument and 10 as the top argument, it is going to return a random integer between 1 and 10. Second example, if you pass 50 as bottom argument and 100 as top argument, it is going to return a random integer between 50 and 100. Let me show you more tips. The RANDBETWEEN function always returns a whole number. Both bottom and top value are included in the possible result. Both bottom and top values are included in the possible results. It generates a new random number each time the worksheet recalculates, and it is useful for creating random samples, simulation, and test data. Let's jump into Excel for you to understand the RANDBETWEEN function. I open Excel. We are going to practice with it here. I select this, I go to the formula bar, I type equals to RANDBETWEEN. I need to pass the bottom value. Let me pass 1 as bottom value, separate it with comma, and the top value is going to be 10. It simply means that we want to generate a random number between 1 and 10, including 1 and 10. That is, from the definition, it is going to include both the bottom and the top value. Close the function and press enter. You see it returns 2. Each time you change something in a cell in a worksheet, is going to be updated. Example, I type something in this cell and press enter. You see it recalculated. You can see I have new random number. If I update something as well, I have new random number. That is how it works. It always generates the random number each time the worksheet update. Let me use autofill like this. Maybe stop here. So it is generating a random number between 1 and 10. I select this cell. I go to the formula bar. Let me type RANDBETWEEN function again. This time around, let me type 50 as the bottom value. Separated with comma, I type 100 as the top value. It is going to return a random number between 50 and 100, including the 50 and the 100. Okay, let me close the function and press enter. You can see that this one generated a number between 50 and 100. If I use the autofill to get the rest like this, okay, you can see that from here I have a number between 50 and 100. I hope with these examples and illustration you can be able to use the RANDBETWEEN function to generate a random integer between two specified whole numbers. Thank you for watching this section. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session, we are going to start working with text functions. Text functions are a powerful set of tools that enable users to perform various operations on text strings. They can be used to extract specific parts of a text string, combine multiple strings, change the case of characters, remove unwanted characters, and more. These functions are essential for data cleaning, formatting, and manipulation tasks. These are some of examples of text functions, and we are going to start with the functions that will enable us to change the case of string. When we talk of a string, we are referring to a text, that is plain text. We have the upper function. This function converts all character in a text string to uppercase. And you can see example here. Write equals to, then you pass a text string as argument, and it will be converted to uppercase. As you can see, the return value is here. So when you pass hello world in small letter, it is going to return hello world in capital letter. Likewise, the lowercase function, this function converts all characters in a text string to lowercase. And this is an example. You pass equals to, then if you pass uppercase text string, it is going to be converted to lowercase. Okay, if you pass the text like this, for example, hello world, it is going to return hello world in small letters. We also have a proper case function. This function capitalizes the first letter of each word in a text string and convert the rest to lowercase. And this is an example. You type equals to proper. If you pass a text string as lowercase, it is going to return the capital case like this. You can see each of the word is capital letter. That is what we mean by capital case. Okay, capitalize each letter of the word. For you to understand this better, I believe in practical aspect. Let's go to Excel so that you are going to understand it better. I open Excel file, this one. Then I have a sample text. Let us start with uppercase. For example, I have this text that says working with text function. I want it to be uppercase. To return this text as uppercase, all I need to do is to go to the formula bar. I'm going to cut this text. Then I type equals to, I type upper. I need to pass a string. Remember, when you are typing a string, it must be in quote like this. I type the text. I type the text string, working with the text function inside the quotation mark. I need to close the function with a parenthesis like this. And if I press enter now, do you see that the text has been converted to uppercase? You can see it here. It has been converted to uppercase. You can also pass a cell reference as an argument to the function. For example, if I select this cell now and type equals to upper, then I can pass this cell reference of hello, which is A2, and I'm going to close it like this and press enter. Do you see that it returned the uppercase of hello? You can see it here. It simply means that you can pass a cell reference as an argument to the function. Let's experiment with lowercase. I select this cell. I type equals to lower. Inside quotation mark, I'm going to type hello world. The hello world is going to be in uppercase. You can see that I type hello world as a string inside the lower function. Then I need to close it with parentheses and press enter. Do you see that it has returned the lowercase of the hello word, even though I type it in uppercase. But this lower function is converting the text to small letter, that is lowercase, okay? Let us see how the proper case works. If we return back to our presentation, we say that the proper function, this function capitalizes the first letter of each word in a text string and convert the rest to lowercase, okay? That is what the proper function does. Let's go back. This our title text is already typed in small letters, as you can see it here, but the upper function is converting it to uppercase, just like this. But if I want this text now to be a proper case, all I need to do is to change the function name. I just change this function name to proper. You can see I type proper here. You can see all the texts are in small letters. But if I press enter now, do you see that each of the word is now starting with capital letter? That is what the proper function does. One of the important use of each of these functions is that if you look at this font group here under Excel GUI, you discover that there is no option to change case in Excel. As a result, you can use the upper function to change to capital case, then the lower function to change to small letters, and the proper function to change to capital case, okay? I hope by now you understand the use of each of these functions. In the next video, we are going to work more with text function. Thank you. Hello viewers, welcome back to this session. We are going to discuss about the functions for combining text. We have the concatenate function or concat. This concatenate function and concat, they do the same work, okay? The difference between concatenate and concat is that concatenate appear in older version of Excel, while concat appear in newer versions. If you are using the older version of Excel, you may not see concat there. You will only see concatenate, but it performs the same task, okay? If I use concat or concatenate, it is going to do the same work. What is the function of this concat function? This function combines multiple text string into a single string. Okay, when you pass a multiple text string into this concat function, it is going to combine them together. That is, concatenate them. This is the example of how to use the concatenate function. You type equals to concatenate, then you pass the arguments. This argument you are passing inside the concatenate function is going to be a text string. In this example, hello is passed as first argument, word as second argument. You see, you separate each of these arguments with comma. Then you can see the third argument is how are you, like this, okay? This is the third argument. This example is going to return hello word, how are you, as a sentence, okay? We also have TEXTJOIN. This function offers more flexibility than concatenate function. It allows you to join multiple text strings with a delimiter, that is separator, between each string. Unlike the concatenate function, the TEXTJOIN allows you to pass a delimiter, that is the separator. Like this one, there is no option to pass a separator. TEXTJOIN function allows you to pass a separator as the first argument, as you can see it here. Then you also pass through. Then you pass the text string. And in this example, apple is the first text string, banana is the second text string, and cherry is the third text string. And this function is going to return apple, banana, cherry separated by comma. For you to understand this better, let's go to Excel so you can be able to understand these functions better. I open Excel. We're going to start with working with the concat or concatenate function. I select cell A2. I'm going to type equals to, type concat. Let me pass a string of hello. Then I separate the string with comma. Type another string. I type another string word. You can see inside the concat function, I type hello. I separate it with comma. Then I type another string word. Okay. If you want to add more string, you can separate each with comma. Then when you are satisfied with your argument, you close the function with parentheses and press enter. Do you see that it returns hello word? but this hello world, there is no space, okay? That is, I'm using the concat function. So for me to add a space, all I need to do is to pass the space as a string. And how do I do that? After the hello, I'm going to type, that is, inside quotation mark, I pass a space, separate it with comma. You can see inside the middle quotation is one space there. I'm passing the space as a string. Then I press enter. Now you see the space has been added, because it concatenates everything together, okay, as a string. So that's how the concat function works. Even if I change this concat to concatenate, which is the older way of doing it, it is going to return the same result. I select concatenate and press enter. Do you see I have the same result? You are not restricted to using the text string inside the function directly. You can also pass a cell reference as an argument, okay? For example, let's say I have hello here. In this cell, I have people. I can select this cell C3 and go to the formula bar and type equals to concat. I can pass the cell reference, which is A3, which is containing hello, separate it with comma. Then I can pass the space as a string like this. As you can see it, I added a space. Then I can pass this cell reference, which is B3, which is containing people. Then I need to close the function and press enter. Do you see now I'm getting hello people? You can see it here. Okay, so you can also pass a cell reference into the function. And remember that this concat function can have as many text string as you want. I'm only using this few as illustration. Now let us practice with the TEXTJOIN function. This one, TEXTJOIN. For example, I select this cell and type equals to TEXTJOIN. TEXTJOIN. Now the TEXTJOIN is going to take a delimiter. The delimiter is the separator. For example, if I want to separate the text with comma, I type it as a string like this. You can see another argument that say ignore empty. If you have an empty cell, it is going to ignore it if you pass through. For example, if I pass through, if I'm using cell reference, it is going to ignore the empty space. Then, after passing these two arguments, before you start entering your text string, after passing the delimiter and the boolean, then you enter the text string. You can enter as many text string as you want, but for this illustration purpose, let me just enter 2. The first text string I'm going to enter is going to be hello. Then I'm going to type word. Then I'm going to close the function with a parenthesis. This function is going to return hello world. The hello is going to be separated with comma. You can see our first argument is the separator. Let me press enter now so that you can see it. Do you see it is returning hello world? But now the separator is comma. If I decide to separate this with space, all I need to do is to modify this delimiter and remove the comma and press space and press enter. Do you see now it is being separated with space? If I pass another argument like how, then I separate it with comma and pass another argument, pass a, separate it with comma, I pass u. Now do you see that all these things I enter them as an argument, but it is having one delimiter, which is the space. Let me press enter now so that we see what is going to happen. Do you see? It concatenates all the string and separate each of them with comma. And one good thing about the TEXTJOIN is that you only pass one delimiter and it is going to be applied to all the string that you pass, okay? So do you see that this hello is a separate text? Word is a separate text, how is a separate text, are is a separate text, and you is also a separate text. But the function itself has joined them together using the delimiter, which is space. And you can see that I have hello world, how are you? This is how it works. I believe you understand the difference between the concatenate function and the TEXTJOIN. Let me show you more example for you to understand it better. I have the list of people here. I have the first name, I have the middle name, the last name. Let's get the full name of these people. We are going to start with the concatenate function. I type equals to concat. I will be using concat now instead of concatenate. Then I'm going to pass the cell reference as first argument. I pass the first name for John and separate it with comma. For me to add a space between the first name and the middle name and the last name, I need to enter the space, okay, inside the function. For example, I can type space as a string like this. Then I select the middle name, which is B2, separate it with comma, also enter another space like this. Then I enter the last name like this. Then I need to close the function with parentheses like this and press enter. John E. Doe, which is the full name. If I were to fill this function now, you can see that it is getting the rest using the concatenate function. You can see by using the concatenate function, it combines the first name, the middle name, and the last name. Okay, but the separator, I am adding it explicitly here. That means each place I need the space, I need to type it like this. Okay, that is how the concatenate function works. Let me show you how to do the same thing using TEXTJOIN. I'm going to clear this. Instead of using concatenate now, I'm going to use TEXTJOIN. I type equals to TEXTJOIN. Our first argument is going to be the delimiter. I'm going to pass space. The next one is ignore empty. That means if I have empty space just like this one, it is going to be ignored. Okay, I'm going to type true. I need to pass my first text, which is the first name, separate it with comma. I'm not going to add space again because I have already added the delimiter here. I'm just telling the TEXTJOIN function to use the space to concatenate my content. Okay, I'm going to pass the middle name, separate it with comma, pass the last name, then close it. You see now I have only one space here. This space is going to be applied to all the text. Okay, so I'm going to press enter now. You see I get John E. Doe, which you can see the space between them. Okay, and now I can use the fill method to fill for the rest. I'm still getting them with the space applied. I hope by now you can be able to use the concat function and also the text function in Excel. Thank you for watching this session. Hello viewers, welcome back to this course. In this session, we are going to learn how to use the LEN function to get the length of a text string. The LEN function returns the length of a text string, that is number of characters in a text string. Okay, this is the example equals to len, then you pass the text string. It is going to return the length of the string. For you to understand this better, let's go to Excel. Okay, I have this data here. Let us get the length of each of these text string. I select this cell and type equals to len. Then I need to pass the text string. I'm going to pass this cell reference, hello world, close the function and press enter. Do you see it is returning 11? Do you see that it is returning 11? 11 is the number of characters that are in this cell. If you count the number of this text here, including the space, it is going to be 11 characters altogether. That is the number it returns here. If I want to count for banana, for example, I can still do the same thing. Equals to len, pass the cell reference, close the function and press enter. Do you see that the number of characters in this word banana is 6? Let me use the fill handle to get for the rest. Okay, you can see the number of characters in apple is 5. What you should notice in the LEN function is that it also counts the empty space. For example, if I modify this hello world and add multiple spaces and press enter, do you see that it is now returning 17? This is because the empty space has been counted. All these spaces that I added has been counted.
Okay, if I remove this space now and press enter, it will return 11. Okay, it is only counting only one space now, which is in between the hello word. Alright, I hope by now you understand how to use the length function to get the length of a text string. Thank you.
If you thought this video was helpful, please like and share it with your colleagues. If you need help with Excel, consider hiring Chigozie for one-on-one instruction. Chigozie's goal is to focus on lessons based on your specific needs. Visit his website in the description below and don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel.